My name is Sue Murphy, and I'm the president here at the Jackson Center. I've been here for about 2.5 years, but the Jackson Center has been here since 2001. So we are in our 17th year of operation, providing educational programming and seminars and experiences for many people across the broad spectrum of ages. And one of our favorite things to do is work with the young students of our county and the region and the world. So we're really pleased to have all of you here tonight. We're glad that this may be not the first experience for many of you at the Jackson Center, but for those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. And please come back. Take the longer tour and not the nickel tour that I gave some of our visitors earlier today. I wanted to say a few words about the essay contest that we sponsored. We asked students to consider the question, how have child labor laws affected society? And the students were encouraged to use descriptive, illustrative, and point of view styles in their submissions. We received 37 entries, and these were evaluated through a blind review conducted by a select group of public school educators and honor students who volunteered for that task. So we really appreciate their help with that. We have 4 essays that were selected to be featured, 2 from middle schoolers and 2 from high schoolers, and we'd like to give them a certificate of recognition and also a little gift from the Jackson Center right now. So when I call your names, please come up and stand with me up here in the front of the theater, and we will have a photo opportunity, and Rosie is at the ready with her camera. So first we have Madeline DeJoy. Next, we have Cecilia Johnson. And next, Donnell Walter. And last but not least, Grayson Holt.
Hello, audience. Hello, Allida, old friend.
Hey, Jeff. How are you, honey?
I'm great, love. My name is Jeff Kresge, and I serve as the Social Studies Curriculum Coordinator for Jamestown Public Schools. I first met Dr. Allida Black about 10 years ago when she came to speak to a group of social studies teachers working out in a summer workshop. See, we actually do work over summer vacation. Dr. Black is everything that you would want in a teacher. She is incredibly knowledgeable. She had the ability to make history interesting and fun, and she had us in stitches the entire time. And she really wanted to know about us, her students for the day. But after she was done lecturing the day that we had her in, she did something that was extraordinarily rare amongst presenters. She stayed to learn from everybody else. And she didn't just stay there that afternoon. She stayed there the day after and the day after that. And we couldn't kick her out by the end of the week. And then she came back the year later. You see, Allida loves learning, and there are no bounds to her interests. She's an expert on anything from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights to the presidency of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia to our favorite, Tennessee women's basketball under the legendary coach of Pat Summitt. And she also, as the founding editor of the Eleanor Roosevelt papers, the person everybody seeks out to speak about ER. But most importantly, she exemplifies what all teachers want for their students. Allida Black is driven to learn, to experience, to understand, and to share. And today I cannot be more excited to share my friend with you. Ladies and gentlemen, from George Washington University in Washington, D.C., Dr. Allida Black.
What's this love stuff? Come on.
Man, I'm telling you, it's pretty intense.
Hi, Dr. Black. My name is Greg Peterson. I'm one of the co-founders of the Robert H. Jackson Center, and just so thrilled to meet you and to learn a lot about you from Jeff, but also your good friend Paul Benson. And
Don't leave any of
I've been looking forward to having somebody tell me a good story about Paul Benson, because I'm gathering to do a roast on him. So if you've got a good story on Paul, could you tell me?
Yeah, but not in front of a crowd.
You know, you are so attached to the Eleanor Roosevelt. I mean, when you think of Eleanor Roosevelt scholars, it's Dr. Allida Black. And how did you get your interest in her?
Well, there's a short version and a long version, a family version and a brain version. So I'll tell you short ones of both. My mother was one of 13 children, 11 of whom were born deaf. And her mother died when she was very young. And so she was raised by her older sister who was deaf. And her name was Ida Mae. And Ida Mae married a deaf man whose name was Fred. And that was my favorite place in my childhood, was to go hang with him. And in the corner of their living room was a bust of Franklin Roosevelt, which is now on the mantle in my house. And when I would ask them why FDR, they would always say, well, he saved the farm. He saved the farms because they were farmers. But as I got older, I realized that the things that I cared about, and I can relate it exactly to what you all have talked about all day, all of the issues that Liddy confronts. A safe place to live, how to have an education, how to be safe where you are, how to get decent wages for jobs, how to build a community that's different. That was all Eleanor. I mean, her DNA was all over. And I kept thinking, why aren't people talking about this? So I decided to talk about it.
Well, you became the founding editor for the Eleanor Roosevelt papers there at George Washington University. And as part of her biography was, of course, the Declaration of Human Rights. And we here at the Jackson Center, because of Robert Jackson's role at the Nuremberg trial, like to think there's a legacy and influence of the trial on what happened at the United Nations. Are we correct in assuming that?
Yes. There are multiple factors for Eleanor's understanding of human rights and how they develop over time. And the work that Justice Jackson did, whom she knew and respected and liked, was very much a part of that. I would say it's one of the two pillars upon which the Declaration rests. I mean, there are the horrors of war on one hand, and there are the horrors of poverty and depression and fear overall, because fear is not just about war. Fear is about how are you going to stay alive? You know, how can you, if you're hungry, how are you going to get your next meal? If you don't have a place to live, how can you have your dreams come along? Just think about all the things that Liddy confronts. So Justice Jackson's work was, I would say, a huge part of that, and an equal way to horrors that she saw of the Depression.
You mentioned the two pillars. What was the other pillar? I may have missed it. One being the perhaps...
The first pillar, well, there are two pillars. There's the horror of war and the Holocaust and the bloodshed and the sacrifice and the extreme violent form of bigotry that inspires fear. The other pillar is what happens to you outside of war in times of great crisis, in times of great poverty, in times of great homelessness, in times of, of persecution at home or discrimination at home targeted to people. Does that make sense?
Oh, makes perfect sense. That's why you're the best teacher in the world.
Oh, please.
Yes, that's what Jeff told me. He just sent me a note. Say that. 3 or 4 times.
Okay, Jeff, I'll take you to dinner when I come back up.
Tell me, though, continuing on the Jackson theme, because we're here, Jackson was really part of Franklin Roosevelt's kitchen cabinet before he became a justice of the Supreme Court,
Yes.
intimately involved as Solicitor General, Attorney General, so on. In your studies of FDR, did Jackson come up in much of that? Do you have a reflection on Roosevelt's connection with Jackson?
Well, I know some about Roosevelt and Jackson, but I have really, focused predominantly in terms of the law and human rights on Eleanor. But I will say that that Eleanor and Justice Jackson did have some extensive discussion on some court decisions that Eleanor did not disagree with. I mean, that did disagree with. For example, the Korematsu case and internment and other, and she definitely looked over and talked with Justice Jackson about what crimes against humanity meant. How did the evolution of the law that emerged from the Nuremberg trials help shape discussions on the Declaration? She certainly was familiar with his writings, and she also thought he was a good guy. I mean, as a person, as company.
As part of your many recognitions and board memberships, and you were involved with the FDR Four Freedoms. Could you explain to our students and our audience here a little bit about what that was and what FDR was trying to accomplish when he issued those four freedom, and part of his Four Freedom speech?
Well, first of all, I want to thank all the students for caring enough to come. And I really want to thank Cecilia and Madeline and, wait a minute, I got them because I read them all, Donnell and Grayson for their essays. It showed heart, and it showed research, and it showed commitment and bonding people. I want to say that first and foremost. But what the Four Freedoms are, and they're 75 years old, okay? I mean, this year. FDR gave a State of the Union address in 1941, in which he said to the nation, this is why we have to stand up to fascism. This is why we have to stand up to Hitler. Should we have to go to war in terms of a hot war, in terms of us, being on the ground and putting our treasured citizens at risk? We're fighting for four great things. We're fighting for freedom of speech and information everywhere in the world. We're fighting for freedom of religion everywhere in the world. We are fighting from fear from freedom of want, poverty, homelessness, deprivation, the basic things that you need to be a citizen, what Lenny craved. And then finally, freedom from fear. And while FDR initially meant that was really freedom from fear of attack, Eleanor expanded that to mean freedom from fear in the broadest sense of what could cripple our spirits. Because Eleanor said that when fear takes over, dreams die. And when dreams die, democracy fades. And when democracy fades, human rights evaporate. And so that's basically what the Four Freedoms are. But for the students, if I could do a little promotion here of you folks that are there. There's a great website which I played a big role in creating, which is the FDR #4 digital, the Freedoms Initiative, Four Freedoms Initiative. And if you can go on that, it's everything that you need to know about the Roosevelts and easily digestible pieces. They're great little movies that I love, so just go check it out. And then build on it. Take it to your heart and make it your own. Otherwise, there's no sense in us being here today.
Speaking of making it your own, you wonderfully caused the republication of Eleanor Roosevelt's Tomorrow Is Now, forwarded by President Clinton and introduced by you, and you give a terrific introduction to Eleanor Roosevelt. And I highly recommend it to everybody who is here with regards to that book. In that you really accent what a strong-willed, determined lady she was, and willing was to really put herself into harm's way to advance a cause. I know there are some stories like with the Ku Klux Klan where in fact she went out by herself or without any sort of security. And I wonder if you could just share some of that extraordinary character of Eleanor Roosevelt.
Well, Eleanor believed something that I try to live by every day. And it's hard, and I fail a lot, but I still try for it. And that is we're all on trial to show what democracy means. And that democracy is as strong as its weakest link, like the weakest part of a chain. And so we have to figure out how we can all help that it's not just the government. It's not just the federal government or the state government or the local government. It's not just NGOs and churches. It's not just the UN. It's not just schools. It's us as individuals too. We're all part of it. And she, that gave her a great sense of joy because the people that she met along the way not only became like family to her, but also showed her how she would be to struggle to make things better. So she's not some Saint Eleanor who went around because she had this great sense of duty. She learned that politics could be fun, that struggle was good, that you had to open yourself up to people that were different. And that gave you a broader community, more friends, and the more friends you had who were different, the easier it was for you to risk yourself. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. And as part of that extraordinary effort and energy that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which we study here at the Jackson Center, really found form because of her high degree of leadership and energy. And yet she did it, it seemed remarkable at the time, as a female in a man's world, and wasn't willing just to be shuffled off into some other committee to be placated as a former first lady. She really took charge.
Absolutely.
When she woke up in the morning, what kind of water did she drink to make that happen?
Well, I'll tell you what she did do. She did take cold showers. And man, that wakes you up. You know? So, but I think, again, going back to it, what Eleanor understood. Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you a story, okay? So here she is. Okay, everybody in the audience, I can only see part of you, so I hope you can see me and my face is not
They can all
back.
see you perfectly.
Okay, so I just want you to think about this. You're in this audience, and you have 6, 8, 10, 12 years of school, right? You're in high. You've been through elementary school. You've been through kindergarten. You're either in middle school or you're in high school, right? Eleanor had 4. Count them: 1, 2, 3, 4 total years of school. She was mostly self-educated. And she had this great teacher whose name was Marie Souvestre. And she taught her one thing, which I tried to, when I was in the classroom, really push big time. And whenever I go out and talk to folks, I try to push this too. And that is, you will never know what you think unless you can argue the position of your fiercest critic with respect and integrity. So for me, that means I have to listen to Laura Ingraham and not throw my computer on the floor. We have to figure out what we can find out, what we have in common, and move forward. And that's the skill that she brought to the Declaration. I mean, I want you to think about, guys, you're more educated than she was when she went to the United Nations. And when she's sitting around the table, she's sitting around like a big dining room table or a big classroom table. And there are 18 chairs at that table. And every table, every chair represents a different country. Okay? And the people in that room don't agree on God or whether God exists. They don't agree on whether private property exists. They don't agree on what the purpose of government is, or what childhood is, or what marriage is. They don't agree on anything except one thing. And that's God, the Germans, and what they're going to do next. So Eleanor goes into that meeting, Greg, that whole all the negotiations for the Declaration, with one fundamental thing, and that is courage is more exhilarating than fear, and in the long run, it's easier. All we have to do is have the courage to look ourselves in the mirror and take one step at a time. Because let's loop this back to Robert Jackson. Okay? You have the arms war. I'm telling you guys, it's hard for me to explain to you how traumatized, how shocked, how nauseous, how terrified America was by the war and the Holocaust. We've never seen anything like that. Now you got Saw number 28. You got Homeland. You got 24. You've got Saving Private Ryan, with the best 13 minutes of war footage ever filmed. We're used to that. We grow up with it. That was new then. People would go to the movies to see Doris Day or Clark Gable or, and they'd see newsreels, and the newsreels would show lampshades made of human skin. And we had the worst weapon the world had ever seen, and we saw it. So Eleanor knew, like Justice Jackson knew, that there was a fundamental decision the world had to make. We can either say people are inherently evil, they're horrible, we're going to slaughter each other, and there's no way we can live in a country without war, and there's no way that we can live in a country where people who are different can live together, or a world where people who are different can figure out how to solve things. Or they could say, by God, we have to have a vision that will help us handle that terror. And Eleanor came down on the side of vision. And that's what the Declaration is. The Declaration is the vision and the call to action that says we are not going to have a Holocaust. We are not going to have another atomic bomb again. And we are not going to have another world war again. Did that answer your question?
It did, and then some. Who was your role model growing up? Was there a teacher? Was there somebody who just that was that aha moment? I'm going to be one of the foremost teachers of human rights in classrooms.
Well, I have to say, I did have an extraordinary teacher. Her name was Jenny Crumbaugh, and she taught me speech, and she taught me English literature and American literature. Excuse me, just a second. And the major thing that she did for me, because my childhood was not the happiest in the world. And Jenny showed me that there was life outside of the school that I was in, or growing up in an alcoholic family. And so she told me about programs I could apply to in the summer, really encouraged me, and we were friends all her life until she died, and I miss her every day. I think I owe my new life to her. Without her, I would have never gotten out of Memphis.
Three cheers for teachers. Rumor has it, and this is for the adults here in the audience, that a person by the name of Elvis Presley came to occasional birthday parties of yours. Tell me, is that so?
Well, it wasn't my birthday party. It was my friend Alan Cartwright's birthday party, who was at we would go to his grandmother, Mama Cook, to ride in go-karts. And the parents wouldn't come. So all the kids in the room, man, it was great because we could ride go-karts, which was like a really risky thing to do in the 50s if you were little. Yeah. There was no parent around to say, oh, you're going too fast, slow down. But what happened was that Elvis lived next door to Mama Cook and would come over almost with great regularity whenever we were there to shoot his gun. Which meant you have to stop the go-karts, go in.
Oh, nice. Now,
that's the one thing everybody will remember from this, right? Anyway.
Yeah, there's Allida Black, Eleanor Roosevelt, Allida Black, Franklin Roosevelt, Allida Black, Elvis Presley.
Sorry.
We're gonna have the students come and ask a question or two in just a second, but I want to ask the question that I should be asking. What is the question you normally are asked that we haven't gotten to today?
How can we keep Eleanor's dream alive? And why did she risk her? I mean, how did America treat her once the Declaration?
What a great question. Could you answer that for us, please?
Well, now we think the Declaration is, oh my God, of course everybody believes in this. It's this great ideal. It's never going to be true, but of course we have to figure out how to deal with hunger and poverty and education and arms control and immigration. But when she did this, it was incredibly controversial. People tried to kill her. They put nitroglycerin in lecterns where she stood. The Ku Klux Klan put a bounty on her head, the largest bounty in its history, to try to kill her. So, what I want you to do when you think about it is I want you to think about the courage that it took for this woman to go out and be the advocate for this, not only all across the world, but across the United States. It was really a gutsy, bold thing to do. Imagine Trump going after Eleanor Roosevelt. Man, she got that every day. J. Edgar Hoover thought she was so dangerous. He wanted, because of her position on civil rights, he wanted to strip her of her citizenship, declare her colored like her people, send her to Liberia so she'd get out of the country, because anybody who spoke up for civil rights had to be a communist. She was gracious, she was proper, but she went around the world without secret protection, advocating this. I mean, it was guts to steal, man. She wasn't little, I'm the first lady, I'm going to go back to this. So that's what I want you to know. And I want you to take courage from that. You have 2, 3, 4 times as much education as Eleanor Roosevelt had. And she depended on you to do the work, which is why she stayed alive to finish Tomorrow Now, which really was sort of one of my bucket list things to do for her. Because it's written for you, folks in the audience. It's written for you, students. It's her call to action to you.
You're amazing. I'm going to now
Okay.
ask the students, they have a question or two, so I'm going to get out of the chair and have them come up here.
And you guys argue with me, man. You don't have to believe everything that comes out of my mouth.
No, I thought we already did when you established that Jeff Kresge was a nice guy.
Yeah.
We'll be back on
You know,
that.
I tell you, I haven't seen him in a long time.
Hello, Dr. Black. I'm Grayson Holt.
Hey, Grayson, nice to meet you. I liked your essay.
Thank you. Nice to meet you as well. I have 2 quick questions, one child labor related and one not. The first one being, if you were to answer the essay prompt, how would you have gone about answering it?
Oh, very good question. Well, I would look at child labor that still exists in the United States and around the world, and how children are exploited in different ways. But I just have to say, Grayson, this is not a criticism of anybody. It's just that I am obsessed with child soldiers and the treatment of children.
Mm-hmm.
It's my Hillary Clinton gene. So one of the things that I would like to see is some of really teeth put in the law in the United States, especially with children as farm workers, because they're exempted from a lot of the federal law.
Right.
And so I would look at that on a global way. I mean, one of the things that I've been reading about that I'm fascinated by is an international court for children. Like an international criminal, but one that would be focused on children and children as migrants, children as trapped, children as exploited in other ways. And I think that the 4 essays that I read all showed that you had a clear understanding of what Liddy and her heirs face. And in 1938, thanks to Eleanor and Francis Perkins, we did get the Fair Labor Standards Act. But just because the law has been passed, that doesn't mean it works.
Right.
It's how much money we put in as a society to enforce the law.
Right. Okay.
Is
That answers the question, yeah. My other question would be, I'm a junior in high school, and the next couple of years are very important for me and the rest of my life. What have been your keys to be successful in your life, and especially pertaining to where I am as a junior in high school, and things I can use as I go into college and so
Sure.
forth?
What do you care about?
I just really want to be happy and be able to help people and have a positive impact on those around me.
Is there, what, you don't have to say this out loud, but just think about the thing that is the most important to you that you want everybody to have. Whether it's a place to live or food or an education or to be able to walk down the street, in safety. Maybe it's guns, maybe it's immigration, maybe it's the right to play, and pray. I mean, play and pray. You know, and find that and find organization and work with it. Because what is important once you start applying to colleges is to say, this is what I believe in. This is how I risk myself to do it. This is what can help me in my studies. That makes sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
And then when you go to school, when you're in school now, and now you're balancing your studies with sport and family and other activities that you care about. It's important now to start learning how to balance your civic activities, your human rights work, with your studies and the time and the other things that make you joyful, so that you can continue to risk yourself. And when you pick a major, pick it because you love it, and throw yourself into it. Because you could be a music major and go to law. You could be a music major and be a great business person. You could be a music major and write the best flute in the world. I mean, if you love it, you'll think outside the box. And then always think of how you can put to use what you know.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense, yeah.
Okay, that's my 2 cents.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate
My
it.
pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Hello, Dr. Black. My name is Donnell Walter.
Hey, Donnell. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I do have one quick question for you. In your opinion, what is the most influential concept that Eleanor Roosevelt taught that gave the greatest effect to the world today?
That courage is more exhilarating than fear.
Oh, I see.
Period.
Period? No explanation?
Period. That's it. And the quote in the second runner-up is, staying aloof is not a solution. It is a cowardly evasion.
I see, yes. Thank you.
My pleasure. That's it. Okay.
Sorry, I thought you were finished.
No, I'm fine. I just wanted to see if you wanted anything else.
Nope, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Can I leave now? Thank
Class dismissed. No, I'm
Thank
kidding.
you.
Okay.
Hello, Dr. Black. My name is Madeline DeJoy. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Hey, Madeline. Nice to meet you.
So I just had one question. What were some of the major challenges that you had to go through in order to become a college professor?
Whoa, Lord, how much time do you have? Well, I went to graduate school late. I ran a lot of nonprofit, so I didn't start graduate school until I was 30. So when I got my PhD, I was 39, and on the job market in a time when there weren't any history jobs. And so what I did was I read widely and studied widely, and so I picked for fields. And then I wasn't afraid to teach something I didn't know, because I would read like a big bad woman before I walked in the class to try to figure it out. And I was pretty honest with my students so that we could figure out how we could design a curriculum that challenged them and helped me master the material. So that's like the professional answer. The emotional answer, you really have to believe in yourself, because I applied for 263 jobs. And I love talking with kids. I love engaging with adults in the classroom. So I taught in community college. I taught in a maximum security men's prison. I taught in one of the top liberal arts schools in the country. And then I decided, my God, Eleanor's voice needed to be. So I decided to set up the Eleanor Roosevelt paper. And the skill that I learned there the most, that has helped me in everything I've ever done, is to how to sell what I believe in on paper, face to face, and do a 20-second, why you, why now, so what? Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
I mean, the one thing that I want to say is that I think ideas have power, and I think that we can learn from who come before us, not in the sense of like some encyclopedia, Eleanor was born on October, blah, 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 1884, but that we can take courage from people who came before and stand on their shoulders. Is that it?
Yeah, that helps. Thank you very much.
Okay. Take care.
Pleasure meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Johnson.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. I'd be better if I was there, but it's the next thing.
What are some of the things that you do now to help achieve all these things that you believe in?
Well, I'm committed to a lot of organization. I try to be pretty good with my money in terms of organizations that I support. I helped found two organizations that a friend of Paul Benson's leads, the Educators Institute for Human Rights and the Summer Institute for the Study of Human Rights and Medicine that's in Buffalo. So I work with teachers and students. When President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was the president of Liberia, I was one of the 3 trustees of the Liberian Education Fund, which helped rebuild the public schools in Liberia after 17 years of civil war. Now I'm helping President Sirleaf on her post-presidential center. I'm doing some work with Secretary Clinton, which is the honor of my life. So I'm helping her on some projects. And a thing that is just rollicking fun is that I am the board of Women's Campaign School at Yale, which is bipartisan, issue-neutral school that that any person in the United States of the world can apply to. Any woman who wants to run for office or run a campaign. And so we work with women who come for a week in the summer and watch them be brave enough to change their world. And so I just flip it, love that. And then I'm a passionate Title IX advocate, and I live and die by women's basketball. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
But the greatest thing that gives me joy is to see what you all do. Because the ideas that you have that are so stunning. I mean, I talk about East Chautauqua Lake High School. School all the time. When was it, Jeff and Paul? Maybe 9 years ago? Was it then?
Yes.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, the kids in that school and their teachers decided that they wanted to help rebuild the school, take responsibility for rebuilding a school in Liberia so that kids who had been tortured by war, who'd been forced to fight in the war, little kids could go to school. and to watch how that community took it on and just did it, and the money that they raised and the school that they built. My God, that's one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my life.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Oh Lord, here comes trouble.
Hi, Allida.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good, honey. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Great to see you again. Just to wrap this up, I want to ask a question because I brought my 10-year-old son here, and we have an audience with students in it as well. If Eleanor were here in 2018, seeing everything that's going on today, what would her response be, and what message would she deliver?
Well, the first thing she would do is create a poster that would say, Emma Gonzalez is my Patronus. Because, and Eleanor was a gun owner. I'm just saying, I'm using that as an example of a young person who didn't fold, who continues to believe that the world can be better in the space of horrible personal tragedy, and just taking on everybody, man, and taking it on it in a way that is, okay, I know I'm right. I'm not going to run over you, but I guarantee you're not going to run over me. And we're going to figure out how we're going to move this forward, and we're going to vote it through. So she would take great courage from that. And there's huge documentary evidence on that. I mean, one great Eleanor story is the summer she was dying. She had 103 fever, guys. She was bleeding from the back of her throat, and she couldn't eat. She had to sip her food through a straw. And she came down to breakfast one morning, and she was humming. And one of her secretaries said to her, Mrs. R, you're in such a good mood. Like, what's going on, man? You've been so unruly. And this is a quote. She said, Maureen, I had the greatest dream last night. I dreamed I was marching and singing and sitting in with students in the South. And so nothing gave Eleanor more joy or comfort or courage than to see young people take it and run. And then until that's on a real personal heart level, on a grand political level, she would be pretty ballistic right now with how we attack each other right and left, how our attention span for news is now in 15-second sound bites, that that the news has become entertainment rather than clear, that she bemoaned in 1960 what had happened to the American dream. She would say the same thing now. She saw it coming back, but then going down. She would be the first person in the country standing with Muslims who were under attack. I say that as a historian who saw Eleanor's work on Israel change over time. I mean, she went to Israel 4 times. She raised beyond bucket loads of money. I mean, beyond bucket loads of money to help create the state of Israel. And she initially inherited FDR's sort of stereotypical depiction of Arabs. But as she aged and at the end of her life, she realized that Arabs and Israelis had to figure out how to get along together. And so that extended to who could come into the United States, who could not come into the United States. And so I think Eleanor would always say that food and shelter are the fundamental human rights. And so the discrimination or the fear that would strip that from people would galvanize her. And the immigration crisis, I think, really now would break her heart, because she would hope that we had gotten past that once we had handled the immigration crisis at the end of the Second World War. And can I just say one thing, guys, about to compare? This is my historian hat. If you look at immigration now in Europe, and you know how everybody in theory is freaking out about that, and how that is being used now to empower Putin and to empower, alt-right or new totalitarian governments. At the end of World War II, there were between 40 and 60 times more displaced persons in Europe than there are now. There are 1 million people came into Europe out of the Middle East and Northern Africa and Turkey and other countries. There were between 40 and 60 million displaced people at the end of the Second World War. So I think the question that Eleanor has is the same question that I have now, which is, at the end of the greatest crisis the world had ever seen, when we had no idea if the American economy or the European economy would come back. Remember, when we went into war in the United States, we still had 20% unemployment. 20%. That's 5 times more than now. And it was a war that ended the Depression. So if we come out of that horror and we don't know if our economy is going to work or not, but we were able to build this new vision, why can't we do it now? That answer your question, Joe?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Dr. Black, we cannot thank you enough. I know you had a tough day, but we can't thank you enough for joining us here this evening. We look forward to seeing you in the future, and thank you for everything that you've done for Jamestown, for Chautauqua County, for this competition, for the Jackson Center, and for Americans in general.
Well, thank you, but I want you to know, guys, that I owe you, man. I got to go back. So we got to figure out, because what I've been very good about, I only mentioned one Harry Potter word. I'm obsessed with Harry Potter. And Harry Potter really is the greatest human rights fable of our time. So we have to figure out how we can all come back together, whether we're in robes or glasses or stars or whatever, to figure out how we can do Harry and Robert and Hermione and Eleanor and the UDHR. And then we'll throw it just for good measure.
We'll take you up on that, Allida. Thank you very much.
Take care, everybody. Be well.
You can still hear us, Dr. Black. Thank you very much. Thank you for the...
Allida, for Pete's sake.
I'd like to thank the awardees. Tremendous job. Well done. Of course, with that goes a salute to your parents and your support system and your teachers, all of which has been super, and we thank you for all of that and congratulate you, as that's all part of our world, and I'm sure that's part of your world. As we wrap up, I want to also thank Marion Beckerink. Marion, for all that she's pulling this all together. Thank you, Marion. And for Sherry Shutter, thank you. And Allie, and of course Susan, for pulling this together, and the teachers. It's been a wonderful night, and again, thank you, Allida. I appreciate it ever so much. And everybody,
thank you all for coming. And I want to come back, okay? I owe you.
Well, we'll take advantage of it full, so stay tuned. Soon, everybody will leave, and then it'll be just you and me, and we can talk about Paul Benson, so thank you.